I spit Patron on this microphone. Watch out, I'm in the zone. Worth for everything I own. Life is March Madness. One mistake, then you go. Yeah, I had a stroke, but your boy still rhyming. And Fresh got love, but the squad still wildin'. Catch me in any city in the hood, we grinding.
All right, the next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros, and I am Showtime Caden. Does this loss prove that Danny Garcia is not elite? Does Danny Garcia's loss to Earl Spence last night prove that?
You gotta go out your way to dress that bad. Yeah, it was work. It took work. You know what I'm saying? Folks at home, this took work.
When I say I had to work hard to put this outfit together, I had to work really hard to put something this ridiculous together. All right, go ahead, Ned.
Is he still elite? For me, elite is your top five in your division. But Danny, he's not outside. He's outside the top five, but he's not outside the top 10. He's literally like 6'7" in the welterweight class, and that's where I would rank him. But he has the skills in the tool set. All he needs to do is really like find somebody who could actually like pick up a trainer that could really like help him hone his skills and have a comeback. His career is not over. He's a great fighter. He just really needs to sharpen the iron, and he'll be back. You know, like he's not. It's like there's no need for to say he's not elite, but he just needs to bounce back, take a couple more fights. There's a lot of fighters I see him beating. He's lost some fights that we all know he's won, and I think he's better. I think he's better than Thurman. Thurman for me is like 9-8. I rate him as 9, like 9. What? Maybe the 10th welterweight. I'm so serious. I'm not a fan of Thurman. The top three, it go Spence, TC, Pacquiao to me, man, and then that fourth spot, 4th, 5th, 4, 5. Probably give it to Porter, and then maybe Danny. I'm drawing blanks when I'm thinking of welterweights right now, but yeah, I just need to see him go back in the tool shed, come out with something new, redefine himself. Don't change too much up, but just add a little more to his offensive game. You know, he'll be back up there with the rest of the guys. You know, but he can hang with them. It's just when it's come to these fights, he's caught a couple losses to when it comes to the big fights. That's all.
G. Well, I definitely do not agree with Ned talk about Thurman's ranked number 9. That's kind of crazy to me, but
I'm not a fan.
Clearly, you know what I mean? But I'll say this though. When I think about it, like kind of what Ned was saying, you could put me personally, I could argue that Garcia is in the top 5 if you remove Pacquiao. So, you know, there is the Thurmans, the Porters, the Spences, the Crawfords. And then so like at that 5th spot, I would give it to Danny Garcia. Now, but the only thing is when Danny has like his opportunities to step up and become the champion in 147, he drops the ball, you know. So I don't think his career is over. He's still an elite fighter. If anything, I don't want to use this word incorrectly. I know in the past we done had some major arguments about this term. But so I'm going to remix it. Danny could possibly be an elite gatekeeper, meaning like
You trying to polish a turd just because you told
You're trying to call Danny Garcia. Nah. Just walk with me, fellas. It's like, to me, Danny's an excellent measuring stick for a person who wants to become a champion. If you could get past Danny, then you ready for the real big boys. You know what I mean? Because I won't say he's down there like holding down the number 10 or number 11 slot to get into the top 10. He's in that top 5. So, and I think there's a clear difference between the fellas that are like ranked from 6 to 10 from the fellas that are ranked number 1 to number 5. And Danny's at that sweet spot. So that's why I'm saying he's the elite level gatekeeper, but I don't want to make it come off as disrespect to Danny. You know what I'm saying? Because the reason why I'm saying this, I don't know if they'll give him another opportunity at one of those belts, you know? And so he has a long way to go for him to get back to that position. So, because remember, this was like a voluntary, you know what I mean? So he's going to have to put in a lot of work. Like, think about it. Porter is like the mandatory for like, what, 3 belts right now? Danny's going to have to wait a while. And it's going to be a long while for Danny to get that opportunity again. Unless out of nowhere TC goes, hey, you know what? I want to fight Garcia next just to get a one-up on Spence. That's possible, but not really likely, you know? So, but he's still elite, though. You know, it's just he just happened to have bad luck, man. You know what I mean? Like, 2 fights were debatable. 1 fight was clear as day. He lost. So he's elite. It's just he's not one of the top dogs. Like, you know what I mean? That's why I think he's like number 5. You know what I mean? And for you to be in that level to beat like a Spence, even a Thurman, I'll even say Thurman. Thurman doesn't even have a belt right now. You know what I mean? Because say what you like, he did lose to Pacquiao, but it was still a good performance against a Pacquiao. You know what I mean? And so if you're including Pacquiao in that list, then I would say Garcia is like number 6. But if you remove Pacquiao, I will argue that Danny Garcia is number 5 on the welterweight list. And even still, 1 to 10 is still elite. We're talking about a world-class division, you know? So to imply like he's still not an elite fighter, I think that's outrageous. Now, if he was going to say if he moves up to 154, then I'm like, nah, he needs to stay at 147, you know? But he's definitely still elite.
Trill Dollar Bill.
Danny Garcia is definitely an elite fighter. Can I ask you a question? How was the question posed? How did this question even come up? I just wanted to know, how did this question even come up? Because I've actually seen this in the comment section, not only in ours, and other comment sections when they was trying to say that Danny Garcia is not elite. Mm-hmm. I don't even think that this should be in the discussion, and it should be even a question. Of course, Danny Garcia is elite. Come on, man. Like, let's just talk about the welterweight division, all right? Just real fast. We're talking about what they done at welterweight, 147. This is what we're talking about, 147. We're talking about welterweight here. I have Danny Garcia at 5. You know what I'm saying? If not at 5, it could be it's up in the air at 5. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Sean could be 6. You know what I'm saying? Sean's the one with the 3 losses and the 1 draw. You know what I'm saying? Danny just got his 3rd loss. You know what I'm saying? And not to mention, Styles make fights. I thought Danny beat Sean. You know what I'm saying? He just didn't get the decision. And not to mention, when they fought Adrian Granados, we went through hell to beat Adrian Granados. And we seen what Danny did to Adrian Granados. That's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes people just get a good decision, and I don't want nobody. Sometimes somebody get the decision, and I don't want that to go against Danny. You know what I'm saying? The politics of boxing. I have Earl at number 1. Number 2, I have a Manny Pacquiao. We're talking about a compliments here at 147. 3, I can entertain a TC. Before I have to entertain a Keith Thurman. Then at 5, I would have to give it to a Danny Garcia, and then at 6, I would give it to a Sean. Sean might be number 1 on everybody's, just because he's waited, and all these other fights has been going on. So while he's waiting, of course, he's going to get his chance to be number 1 on all these sanctioning bodies, of course. But he wanted to go the easy road, and he was like, he wants to go with TC. He don't want no problems with the new Spence. You know, so he was calling out TC last night. And I think I know why. And that's how I look at it. There's no way that anybody cannot say that Danny Garcia is an elite. I think he's in the top 5. If you want to say he's in the top 6, then fine. But there's no way that you're going to say anything other than that. This guy is a warrior. He has nothing but heart. Put some respect on Danny Garcia's name. He fights the big fights after one, after another. And he don't back down. He ain't get put on his butt. You know what I'm saying? He was throwing shots. And just don't let this one fight against a complete Earl. Like Caden always says, big fish eats a little fish. You know what I'm saying? A good big fish will always eat a good little fish. And that's what happened, guys.
Last night, 100 for sure.
Yeah, that's what happened last night. So you guys don't be tripping, man. Danny Garcia is definitely elite. That's just how I feel. Oh, yeah, shout out to the Dodgers. Somebody told me that we didn't shout out the Dodgers, but we shout out the Lakers. But shout out to the Dodgers.
That's true. The Dodgers did win.
You know what I mean?
L.A. They're the champs right now.
You know what I mean? Shout out to the Dodgers.
So I think you summed it up perfectly, Trill. So I'm just going to piggyback off of what you said. When you're talking about elite, what is your definition of elite? Because, like, if you're talking about the best, then no, Danny Garcia is not the best. But elite doesn't mean that you're the best. Like, elite means that you're one of the best. Like, you're upper echelon. Your skills are top tier. That's what elite means. There are so many elite athletes in this world. Like, if someone came up to you and said, you're the 5th best athlete in the world, you are elite.
Facts.
You are elite.
That's a billion people. You elite.
Yes. Like, yes, when you look at the percentages, when you look at the number of people that play sports in this world, if you are the 5th best athlete in the world, you are elite. Like, you may not be the best. Whoever's number 1 is the best, but you are elite. So, like, one
in the top 10.
Yeah. I'm just throwing that out. I'm just throwing it out there because, like, you know, exactly. Top 10 of all the athletes in the world, if you in the top 300, you're elite. Like, can you imagine?
Like I'm in the top 100 basketball players. That's a big deal.
Like, are you kidding me? When you look at the difference, like, to me, LeBron James the best basketball player in the world. Kyrie Irving's not even in the top 10. But when you watch Kyrie Irving, he busts up anyone. It's just the way it is. Like, yo, this at the top, it's so minute, like it's so slight, like the difference. It's like you're grasping at straws at that point. You know, like even in those rounds with Earl and Danny, some of them, you give him to Earl because he landed more jabs. But the power shots could have been a wash. Like, you know, so you when you're dealing at the top level, and this is why I say you should get credit for the strength of schedule, for the quality of opponent. When you're at the top level against elite versus elite, it's going to be different. How many times you've seen your team, whether you watch soccer, whether you watch basketball, whether you watch football, and you see them playing someone that's not on their level and they run through them. And then when they play another elite team, you see a defensive struggle. Every play matters. Every possession matters. That's what's about when you're in the elite. Every punch matters. Every round matters. Every second matters. That's all that happens. When it's elite versus elite, everything is magnified. Every little thing matters when it's at that level. So just to point out some of the things that Trill said, there are 2 ways you can rate the division right now, right? You can rate it off of talent and recent events, right? So if you want to rate it off of talent and recent result of fights, right? So I'm going from a talent perspective. I would have Earl number 1, Terrence Crawford number 2, Manny Pacquiao number 3, Keith Thurman number 4, Sean Porter number 5, and then you would have Danny Garcia and Ugas. You can split hairs for them at number 6. Now, here's the kicker for Danny Garcia and Ugas. I think both of them beat Sean Porter. I think both of them beat Sean Porter. Huh?
Ugas definitely won.
Yeah. I thought Ugas beat Sean Porter. And I thought Danny Garcia beat Sean Porter. So now you have an issue where I have Sean Porter over these guys simply because he got a decision that I don't think he deserves. So I have to go with other people's opinion over my own because of the position they held. But my own opinion is he lost to both of those guys, and he should have like 5 losses on his resume. But I'll give him that slot. But if we're going off of strength of schedule, like what you've accomplished, the opponents you faced, the quality of the opponents you faced, my list would look like this. Manny Pacquiao, number 1. Look at Manny Pacquiao's history in the sport of boxing, but in addition to that, at the age of 41, he sparked out Keith Thurman, who was the number 1 welterweight at the time. He did that in his 40s, cuz. Like, just sit down and shut your mouth. Earl Spence Jr., Look at his resume. We've gone over it several times. It speaks for itself. Okay, Earl Spence beat Kell Brook when he was champion, not 6 years later. He beat Mikey Garcia when he was on the pound for pound list. And I believe Mikey Garcia was higher than Spence on the pound for pound list at the time when he beat him. So he beat Mikey Garcia. He beat Sean Porter. He just beat Danny Garcia. That's his strength of schedule. Those are quality opponents. Then Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman beat Danny Garcia first in a title unification bout. Keith Thurman also beat Showtime Sean Porter. Okay, so you got to give Keith Thurman his props for those two victories. Then Sean Porter, I put him on the list because whether right or wrong, he got a victory over Danny Garcia and he has a victory over Ugas. So then at number 5, Danny Garcia, because Danny Garcia did beat Robert the Ghost Guerrero at a time when Robert the Ghost Guerrero was a quality opponent at 147. And then at number 6, I would have Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford's best win is what? Kell Brook. 6 years after he beat Sean Porter, 3 years after he quit in the fight with Earl Spence. That's his best win. To some of you, what do you say? Jeff Horn because he beat Manny Pacquiao? Jeff Horn won a controversial decision against Manny Pacquiao that was so bad, Teddy Atlas couldn't hold his emotions and said, "You really think you won this fight?" to him immediately after. Tell me how you won. Just tell me how you won. So, okay, Terrence Crawford takes the title from that guy. And Manny Pacquiao's so good, he went and got it again against the number 1 guy in the division. But that's fine. You can give Terrence Crawford those 2 victories. But my point is it doesn't add up to the other guys I just named. So if we're going on talent, and if we're going on strength of schedule, Danny's number 5. If we're going against the quality of guys you face and victories you got, I didn't even mention the fact that Danny's been in the ring with Earl Spence Jr., Sean Porter.
If Danny Hearn. Danny needs Hearn for a comeback fight. Horn. Excuse me. I mean, Horn. Yeah.
Give Danny Horn.
Look what Danny would do to Horn.
No, give Danny Horn and then give him Brook. but you know, if you're being real with yourself, there's 2 ways you gotta look at this. If you're looking at strength of schedule, Pac is 1, Earl's 2, Thurman's 3, Porter's 4, Danny Garcia's 5, and Terrence Crawford 6. But if you're going strictly off talent, recent performances, and then it would be Earl 1, Terrence Crawford 6, Pacquiao 3, yep, Thurman 4, Porter 5, Danny Garcia or Ugas at 6. I wouldn't argue with either one of those. There's an argument to be made for either one of those guys in that slot. But one thing that doesn't change is the big fish in the welterweight division right now is Earl Spence Jr., unified champion, 3rd consecutive fight on pay-per-view. The numbers show that he's a pay-per-view attraction. Based on what I saw last night, I don't think he's going to disappoint with his pay-per-view numbers this time around. Big fish, Earl Spence. Danny Garcia lost to the big fish. He's elite. He's at least top 5, top 10 in the division. That's elite.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section and check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Also, check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We are the Boxing Bros.
We could have been flawless, flying up to make people's mouths drop jawless. How can 2 years be erased in 1 August? And you know I have my pride, so I had to get brolic. All in all, I can't call it. Just know you're my queen. Wish I was denim, cause then I be in your jeans. Can't fight fate, and you've been loving me since your teens. But when you can't move forward, you gotta wipe your slate clean.